Hey everyone, my name is Victor Dwyer, and today this is the Marketing Perspective podcast. Today we have Sreenath. Sreenath. Ah man, I messed it up. No, I
Sreenath,
had it. I
Sreenath,
had it. Can you say it for me, please?
Sreenath,
Sreenath. Yes, there we go.
Sreenath Reddy.
I had it before and then I messed it up. I tried. I tried my best. I'm so bad at pronouncing names, as everyone knows. But yes, he is with Intentwise, which is a dashboard solution tool and also an like an Amazon advertising optimization tool as well. And he's going to give us an intro about himself, and then we'll start diving into some Amazon data and also some perspectives on what is happening with Amazon. So yes, we'd love to hear more about you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am one of the co-founders here at Intentwise. Before Intentwise, I spent way too many years in data management and digital advertising and performance marketing at Orbitz, the online travel company. So I've been doing this a long time. And at Intentwise, like you mentioned earlier, there's really two solutions we offer our clients. One is an ad optimization platform, and another is a data and analytics platform that is really aimed to simplify this fragmented Amazon data problem. So where we simplify the collection, visualization, and reporting of it, both for sellers and brands as well as agencies and aggregators these days.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
great. That's
yeah,
great. Can you go into some? So, as an Amazon seller, like we are bombarded with all this different data, and
yeah,
the Amazon user interface is like literally god awful. Like like literally navigating the Amazon user interface is horrible. You have to download all these reports and all these different spots. There's a million
yeah,
different places to get them. So with what are all the types of data points that you think that sellers should be paying attention to and
yeah,
kind of going into that? That'd be
yeah.
interesting.
No, definitely. No, definitely. I think at a high level, see, we think about data sets of two broad kinds. One is what we call shopper-centric signals, which is things like pricing, reviews, organic ranking,
Mhm.
all of those things which influence shoppers' purchase decisions. The other is the seller-centric data you get from Seller Central as well as advertising.
Mhm.
Um, and uh, so within that, so broadly, those are two kinds of data sets. And of course, within the seller-centric data, there's advertising, sales, inventory, and there's a list of 100 reports. So lots and lots of data there. And what we always find is uh, collecting and connecting these two worlds of data is where the magic lies. And
Yeah.
actually, it's, I think, becoming increasingly important to be doing that. So,
Yeah, like you can give someone all the data in the world, like within
yeah,
one dashboard, but it needs to be actionable. Like it needs to be
right.
something that is actually valuable to that person because the human
Yeah,
brain can only understand so many numbers. Like if you put
sure.
all these numbers on a dashboard, your brain's going to be overwhelmed and you're not going to have any idea what is going on. So it's important to not only have the data, like you can have all the data to you in a Google sheet, an Excel sheet, or whatever it may be, but
Yeah,
it needs to be understandable, easily digestible, so that way
yeah,
your brain can easily understand it because we can only understand so many data points before we get
right.
confused. I am
Yeah,
literally in data all day, every day, and I still get
sure.
confused and overwhelmed by the amount of
Yeah,
data that we digest and things like that. So,
yeah.
what are your recommendations to making an insightful and easily digestible dashboard so that way your data comes in a way that can be understood? What are your recommendations there?
Yeah, I think any data goes through its journey, right? So there is the collection, there is the enriching and organizing, and then there's a visualization piece.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that to get this right, you just have to attack all these three layers, and ultimately, um, there's a person leveraging all of this that actually understands a business use case. So, for instance, if you're an agency working with a client, each client is unique. Each client will look at the world maybe slightly differently. Some metrics will be more important than others for each client. So you need to have the flexibility to be able to build those views that are either specific to a client or specific to you. But to make that happen, though, the three things I mentioned, which is comprehensive data collection, organizing and enriching of that data, so that it is easily accessible to whatever dashboarding tool you use today. It could be Google Data Studio, it could be Tableau, it could be Power BI. That underlying infrastructure and plumbing is super important. And beyond that, it is kind of experts like you saying, look, we really need to be looking at this metric versus that. We just need an easy ability to, to be able to build these views. Here's another thing I'll say, Victor. Great dashboards are ones that become stale very quickly. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're asking the next question that this dashboard doesn't solve. So you need to be able to build a new one to address this new question. So you just need that, what I call data agility.
Mm-hmm.
And you need that underlying infrastructure to be able to do that. So,
What I really like with Intentwise is because normally in normal dashboard solution tools, they give you basically the same model of every single. It's like cookie cutter. That's what it's called. A cookie cutter dashboard that is
sure.
the same exact thing. Like they show it exactly like if every business was exactly the same, and which it's not. It's within different dashboards, businesses need different things, and it's really cool that you add that customizability within your dashboards for what the business is looking for, so that way
Yeah.
you adapt it to that particular business, which is really cool
Yeah.
because every business looks at different things. Some businesses may look at ACOS, some may look at
Yeah.
ROAS, some may look at tacos. Like there's a million different things that businesses may look for, and having that easy customizability where the
Yeah.
person can understand is super crucial to having a good dashboard. And I think that's really amazing that you provide that. That's really cool.
100%. So I think for us, I think there's I think two parts to it. One is that customizability to go answer new questions, unique questions. So that's one piece of it. Part of the customizability we find is that the data you get from Amazon often may have to be married with internal data, or maybe Amazon is one of many channels and you want to integrate that and get a holistic view. And so the way we have architected and designed this thing is not only can you customize views on top of Amazon data, you could easily integrate it with other data sets, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the way we architected this, you could store data in what we call an Intentwise Amazon data store. You can build dashboards in things like Google Data Studio, Tableau. You can even pipe this data into internal systems if you want to integrate this with other stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those are all the different scenarios we want to support, ultimately to help you with that customizability.
See, what I find really cool, because I've been on the data importing side as well when it comes using other tools, and it's very difficult because NWS access and getting organic sales is pretty easy, but getting the advertising is a whole separate API. It's a
Yeah,
very tedious process, and what's neat is you guys actually combine them. So like
yeah,
you're able to not only extract both of the data sources, but you're also able to combine them in one dashboard, which
yeah,
is very difficult to do even in one table within Google Data Studio, which is hard to do. You have to like do these data merging and I understand that. And so yes, it's very difficult, but it's at the end of the day, it's very valuable for an Amazon seller to say, okay, this is the how much ad spend we got. This is our organic sales, and this was our ad sales. So that way you can directly see, okay, how much is our advertising sales eating into our organic sales? Maybe you might want to decrease your defense campaign, so you stop bidding on your branded search terms or whatever it may be. But it's super crucial to understand and at least have that perspective of the seller, like so that way they at least understand what's going on that side of the business, because like as you said, like a lot of Amazon sellers, they don't even understand like the data and what's happening within their account because it's so hard to find it. So it's really important that they understand that.
100%. And I think what makes it also challenging is like, I mean, you know this uh, pretty well, which is if you look at how much Amazon ad formats are changing, right? Like they're rolling out so many new capabilities. So the ad data also changes constantly. There's lots of new stuff coming your way. So there's that element to keep up with. The second thing is we find is like there's also need to enrich the data that you get. So for example, um, I know like many of us want to look at brand versus non-brand segmentation of advertising performance. But how do you truly segment brand versus non-brand? You have to know all your brand terms and you have to know all your brand ASINs, and you really have to be able to do this at the search term level, right? So we see that, and so that's part of the enrichment that we offer. So within our platform, as you have already seen, you could actually define things like brand versus non-brand. You can even label things, right? Whether it's campaigns, products, keywords. So I would say collection, enriching of that data, super important. And the use case you brought up is a classic one, right? Advertising plus organic sales data. Let me throw in one more element into it, right?
Uh-huh.
Imagine if you added a third piece to it, which is organic ranking,
Yeah.
right? So that'd be even better. So I think for us, I just think, I tell my team, we're in the business of giving you what I'd like to call data agility, mix, match, enrich, but do all that rapidly and stay competitive. You know, that's the mantra.
And it's so hard to understand as an Amazon seller what is driving sales. Like,
Yeah,
there's so many different perspectives, and the data is in so many different places that it's hard to understand. Like, okay, we made an extra $10,000 this month, but why did we make it? Was it the advertising? Was it the organic rank? Was that shifting? Did keywords change? Or even worse, did we go $10,000 less than last month? Like, what is going on in the account? And most Amazon sellers, 99% of Amazon sellers, cannot answer that question. And it's
sure.
because it's not their fault. It's just the data is not easily available to them. So it's very easy. Like, it makes more sense to understand. Okay, we lost $10,000 this month because of product A, B, and C. We had less ad spend this month,
Yeah,
so that made it where we had $10,000 less. So that
yeah,
makes it where it's a little bit more actionable, saying, okay, now we just need to increase that ad spend. So now
yeah,
that we know what to do from here on. So that way it's a
yeah,
little bit more actionable in that way. And if you bring organic rank, you can see, okay, we dropped organic rank for these keywords. We need to maybe
yeah,
start pushing them on the advertising or something else along the lines of that. But it's super important to at least understand what data points are controlling your business, so that way you can understand why are sales up, why are sales down, and so that way you can
yeah.
figure out how to manipulate that.
Correct. Yep, 100%.
And another thing is, with the what is your thoughts on the rising cost of the Amazon advertising? So I'm on my client accounts, I'm seeing about a 15 to 20% increase month over month on the Amazon advertising. So
Yeah,
I'm curious on what you're seeing
yeah.
and how you are kind of navigating that to figure out what to do to kind of go around those rising costs and cost per clicks.
Yeah. So I think um, great topic. I would say is second most talked about topic after inventory issues, I guess.
Mhm. Yeah.
But I mean, we see the same trend. I mean, we recently plotted kind of the way we look at CPCs is look at what's going on to top of search, especially sponsor product top of search placement CPC. That's a good benchmark in my
Mhm.
opinion. Um, Obviously, they've consistently gone up throughout the year. And so, my take is the following: if you look at any ad platform, whether it's Google or Facebook, exact same thing has happened. The factors driving that here are perhaps slightly different, but CPCs going up should not be a surprise. Like they're bound to go up with increased competition, with more larger brands and players coming in. So I think so that's a given. The question is how do you deal with it? The way I look at it, I feel like the honeymoon period of Amazon ads is over. You know,
Yeah.
set up some campaigns, let them run, and kind of get decent efficiency. That time is over. It's all
Yeah.
about deep segmentation and fine grained optimization. That's the only way to win. And so I call it like elbow grease. It's just daily optimization discipline of segmenting your campaigns, expanding your long tail keyword and product targets, and
Mhm.
being efficient in bid management around those things. So that, I mean, discipline, detailed segmentation, long tail focus are three things I would call out, and truly leverage automation where you possibly can.
Yeah.
So I would say that those are. I mean, none of that is rocket science, but I think doing all of those together all the time in a disciplined manner is much harder said than done. Uh, and part of the reason why we are continuously making this investment in data infrastructure is also this, which is the future of how you can stay competitive. In my opinion, is going to
Mhm.
depend on how you're able to corral all these signals and data sets and
Mhm.
put those to use. So that's part of why we are investing in that on that track continuously.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree with that. And that's a good way to navigate, especially with the rising cost of everything. So that way you can at
Yeah.
least dial down the amount of the rising cost of it actually happening on the Amazon ads. And we actually
Yeah.
did have a question from the audience, which I think is very interesting. So, sorry, I have allergies. There are a lot of
Yeah.
tools out there that does something similar. What makes you different from others? So I loved for you to kind of see what we can do to kind of how would you navigate this question? Would you say that
Yeah.
like, hey, we enrich the data, or kind of like what sets you apart from every other database tool out there or anything else?
Yeah. So I think good question. I mean, first of all, when we say tools, there are really two tools we have, right? One is an ad optimization platform, the other is a data platform. And I'll touch on both in terms of differentiation. When it comes to the ad optimization platform, there are fundamentally three things how we are different. Um, from a bid management standpoint in the market, there's tools on one end, which is black box AI driven tools, and there's tools at the other end, which is tool based bid management. We are unique in the sense that we actually give you both options down to the campaign level, where you have the flexibility to choose between the two ways you can manage bids. So that's one aspect. The second aspect is beyond bid management. There's a ton of opportunities that get left behind on the table in any in an advertising account. So we have what is called a recommendation engine that is constantly surfacing those opportunities and bringing them to your attention so you can act on it. Simple example: you could have keywords working really well in sponsored products, but for whatever reason you haven't deployed them in sponsored brands, you don't even know it. We automatically detect that type of scenario. And there's a long library of scenarios we account for in our recommendation engine. And the third aspect is the sophistication we are bringing to data, which leads me to that second solution we have, which is the data analytics platform. How is that different? In the market today, there's a bunch of solutions where you can build a canned report for yourself, and you've got that dashboard.
Hmm.
What we are doing is, one, we are collecting a ton of data. Two, we are letting you take control of the raw data also, and not just the dashboard. And three, you can build whatever dashboards you want in any tool you want, and we can help you with it. So
Yeah.
um, all those together makes us unique. It's not a pre-canned dashboard and that's all you have. There's a lot more agility and richness and ownership of the data you're going to get with our platform. In fact,
And
we
oh yeah, go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead.
Go ahead. Go
And
ahead.
I was going to say, so in essence, what we have for you instantly is what we call your Amazon data store, right? Ready-made, ready to go for you. And so, and then in the future, very near future, it's going to be your retail data store, not just Amazon, but a bunch of other channels as well. So, yeah, that's my response. And of course, try it out for free and actually see it for real.
Yeah, and I'll add on to that is I found a lot of tools that get the NWS access, but when it comes to the advertising capabilities, they not they either they do get you access to the Amazon advertising, but they very rarely combine both. that because they're separate APIs, the data merging is complicated, so they end up either only getting MWS access, the organic sales, either that or only the advertising, and they almost never pair them together, which is not as useful. You want all that data in one dashboard, and not only that is that you're also able to pull in vendor central data, which is very very difficult because for like my vendor central clients, they have to literally go in every single day, download the Excel sheet, Control A, copy
There you go.
everything, paste it into Google. And I'm like, oh my
Yeah,
gosh, it's that bad.
yeah,
It really is that
yeah.
bad.
And
But
then
that's how Vendor
and,
Central is.
and then add on to that organic ranking, share of
True.
voice, content quality. Very soon, DSP, Amazon attribution. So it's an endless set of data points um,
Yeah,
that we're just going to make really simple and easy for people to consume.
exactly. And like, so to bring all that in perspective, and then all have that in not only a cookie cutter dash, like don't you aren't limited to a cutter dashboard that is like set the same thing for every single business. You're also able to bring it into other data sources like Google Data Studio, Power BI, and Tableau, and everything else, and which is really cool. So that way you have that customizability on everything you
Yeah,
do, and you're
yeah,
able to say like, hey, can we change this a little bit and then do that, and so that way you adapt the dashboard for the particular person, and then you're able to have insightful data at that point.
yeah,
Like it's no longer like this like literally like garbage mess of data that everything that Amazon gives you. It's actually like a dashboard that you can look at every single day and say, okay, this is what's happening today. This is what we can do tomorrow. And
yeah,
having that type of dashboard is so powerful, especially for
yeah.
Amazon. Like the reason why is like in e-commerce, it's normal to get something else like that, like within your Shopify or anything else. But to have that within Amazon, literally like with their data delays and like all this, like it's
Mhm.
so hard to
Yeah,
find it and everything else. Like it is so difficult to do that within Amazon. So
yeah.
having that capability is really powerful for any Amazon seller. It really is.
And I would also add, I guess the one last thing I want to add to that, Victor, is it shocks me how many companies out there don't really own this data.
True.
It's like they have a service provider, they have a dashboard somewhere, but the moment for whatever reason that subscription stops,
Yeah.
that's gone, right?
Yeah.
So, um, if you don't have a strategy to own your data, I think it's going to be a challenge going forward, right? So I think, um, yeah, so that's another critical piece, and that I think people should take into account. Own your data. you know,
Yeah.
uh,
And
so
it shouldn't be something that I think everyone should be at least glancing at their dashboard once a day. And if you're not, then it is not a valuable dashboard. You're only
true.
going to look at something that is like truly valuable to you. And if you look at it and say, okay, I don't understand this. This is too complicated for me. Then
Yeah,
it's not a good dashboard. It's not a good fit for you at least. So
yeah,
like in some cases, we build a technical dashboard, which is like
yeah,
the super nitty gritty of every single keyword level and everything else. And then we have an executive dashboard, meaning
yeah,
that it's for high level people. For like super surface level, this is how much we spent. This is our sales. This is our gain.
yeah,
Like literally that simple. And then that is perfect for some people. So it's really about adapting your data toward the person. Because if you are not looking at a dashboard right now, you are
yeah,
losing. Like
yeah,
you have to know be at least know what's going on within not only your Amazon account but all your accounts. But Amazon is
yeah,
really important right now with the Q4 and everything else.
yeah,
So it's really important to know what is going on and adapting some type of dashboard, whether if that's a high level dashboard, whether it's a technical dashboard, whatever level you are at, but you should at least be knowing what is going on in your account. That is number one. No matter where it is, whatever
mhm,
level you're at, you should at least be
yeah,
knowing what's happening in your account.
yeah.
100%.
And you bring up a great point too, which is like not all dashboards are for everyone. Right. So, for instance, one of the things we realized and have built out is we have a template that is a deep dive on advertising. We have a template that is a combination of advertising and organic sales. We have a template that's a actual account audit. These are templates for instance, Google Data Studio. You could take it, run with it, modify it. But your point about like dashboards and building stuff for the right audience, I think is a critical point as well.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And we got another question right here. On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you recommend whether we fully rely on Intentwise, or we have to look for other tools as well, or do things manually as Amazon advertising is changing so fast? So, um, I'll add on to this just from an Amazon seller perspective. I have tested lots of tools and they break all the time. So like even like like with Amazon advertising changing so fast that there's still tools that still can't pull in sponsored brand video analytics, and
Yeah,
you're just like, that has been out for literally like 3 years. And so
yeah,
like but with Intentwise, I've been able to see a lot more. I've been able to pull in a lot of that data, and
yeah,
even if a new type of data, like sponsored display audiences, sponsored
yeah,
display, product targeting, whatever it may be, that they're able to pull in the data really fast, even when it's a brand new functionality, that they're still able to pull in those analytics from what I have seen. So that's my perspective on it. So yes, I would say they're able to pull in those new features that are really crucial. That and typically why I don't use tools. Like I don't use social media tools because they don't have that new functionality. They can't develop it fast enough because that new like gadget that you want to test out, it isn't there. But that is why like this dashboard also you're able to show that data very quickly, and especially if those new data formats, those new advertising formats, you're able to pull those in pretty fast.
yeah.
I
I
think
mean,
that's really cool.
it's like, you know, uh, if in the business we are in, which is we are a layer on top of the underlying Amazon platform.
Yeah.
If you are slow on the take on new capabilities, we don't have a business. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's it, it's as simple as that. I mean, there will be a gap, right? But we have a dedicated engineering team that's really focused on closing those gaps. And honestly, to the question that's been raised, there are a significant number of things that can be done in an automated fashion. But I will also say that the pace at which Amazon is introducing new capabilities has really picked up. So let's just say 80-90% of stuff is automated. There'll be a piece that is not, but that's the piece that we're working on, and it's a constantly moving thing. Um, Certainly, you're much better off than not leveraging our platform for sure. But yeah, so that's the reality, and we are committed to continuously closing that gap. And it isn't just about closing the gap with the feature they have introduced. It's also about, okay, that new feature, what is the best practice? And how do we come up with a recommendation that can really help you? So that's another aspect we think about a lot because, again, we have to add incremental value on top of the Amazon platform. Otherwise, we have no business, so,
Yeah.
so yeah.
And Amazon changes so like literally every 48 hours. There's always a new Amazon update, a new Amazon something that is going
Yeah.
on, and it changes so quickly. So I can't even imagine being like a tool provider in this space. That would be like a whole other area of problems, and
That
like I
is.
can't imagine that.
It is. And I think, one of the things, like we've been doing this a long time, and I'll kind of uh, get a little technical here. One of the complexities of being in this business is not only are they introducing new stuff, it's not like we have a testing ground for it to go truly test it out before we launch. No, that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So in a typical software development environment, you get to test everything and all of that and push it out, and sometimes we just don't get to do that. So it's a fast changing, complex environment, but we have built a muscle around this for a little while now. So, we're doing okay.
And like that's honestly the best way to do it is just to like figure out what the change is, roll it out, and then like see what happens next because
Yeah,
you have to go so fast in this space that
yeah,
it is like it's a whole other level. It really
yeah,
is. Like you really have to try to keep up and it can be difficult sometimes. It really can.
yeah,
So it you have to really know your stuff and sometimes you just got to take the risk of making a mistake in there and just
yeah,
keep going
yeah.
and keep making just figuring out what works and what doesn't kind of thing.
True.
It's really important.
100%.
And then is there any KPIs, any metrics that you see that Amazon sellers aren't focusing on, but should be focusing on currently? That you see that okay, like everyone is not looking like that. They're not looking at it right now, and you're saying okay, all Amazon sellers should be at least knowing these type of metrics. Is there certain KPIs or metrics that you can think of that would be a good fit for what an Amazon seller should have?
Yeah, good question. Um, in general, like, you know, tacos has been around a long time, so I'm not
Yeah.
going to say that. um, New to brand metrics, obviously, that's a critical one. Um, and I think lifetime value of customers, I think, is an important one too, just so that you're not optimizing to the first transaction, especially if you're a business where there's repeat purchases. So, um, and then lately, there's a lot of impression share reports being shared by Amazon. Super critical to be looking at that, down to the keywords of interest. Um, and I think more than new metrics, um, I think for me, it has really been about marrying existing metrics and data points together, right?
Yeah.
So, how do you get a view that combines organic position with advertising performance, for instance, at a keyword level, right? So,
Mhm.
uh, do you invest in ad spend? Assuming you have limited ad spend, do you invest in keywords that are already ranking well, or do you invest in keywords that you're not ranking well? So, I would say metrics that are at the intersection of these data points, I think is what we should be looking at. I mean, inventory is a great example, right? Like, um, on-hand inventory, and what point do you stop your products from being advertised? That is kind of very specific to you. Kind of getting a sense for what that is, and perhaps pull back on those products if you're below certain levels. Super critical. Um,
Mhm.
because even though, for instance, sponsored products and sponsored display are inventory aware ad types, meaning um, the if your product is out of stock, sponsored product or sponsored display ad doesn't get served. But there is a nuance. What we
Mhm.
see is a product can have, say, coming soon, and that's still getting advertised. When you have a coming soon, your conversions drop and your ACOS doesn't go the right direction. So it's
Mhm.
actually important to pause those products in sponsored products and sponsored display if your inventory levels are below a certain threshold. What is that threshold is something you want to figure out and keep a close eye on. Otherwise, you'll be burning through cash without the return.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've been a little all over the place, but I think to me, I think the magic is in kind of marrying different data sets together and coming up with thresholds that with which you can optimize performance.
Yeah. No, yeah, I totally agree with that. And we had another question come in with the customer identification and knowing their psychology is the KPI that think sellers are missing. And I don't think this would come down to a single KPI. Like when it
No.
comes to the psychology, that comes more on the strategy level. So the KPIs there might be like click through rate potentially or the conversion rate on your ads. But when it comes to the psychology, it really comes down to actually thinking through. And that's the difference between data and actually like figuring out like that's the good thing about knowing the data. So, for example, if you take a look at a dashboard, if you actually are looking at your data at this point, you could say, okay, our this one product has lost almost 50% of sales. And you can go, oh wow, we lost almost 50% of sales on this one product. What is going on? And
Yeah,
then you can dive in and go into Amazon and say, oh, like our main image is messed up. Like the customer psychology, they wouldn't understand what this main image is, and they would no
yeah,
longer buy it because of that issue. But you would have never have seen that if you were not looking at some type of dashboard or looking at your data saying, okay, this product is down, let's figure out why. So
yeah,
yes, it's important to have that level of automation, but it's also important to bring in that human element and figure out, okay, and strategize, why is this happening? So that way you can
yeah,
see, okay, our sales are down, let's figure out why that is, and really diving into the Amazon back end, seeing what's going on there, or diving into the front end, seeing what is the customer seeing. Is something wrong? Is the customer expectation incorrect with what the customer is seeing, and identifying that so that way that is there.
yeah, yeah. And great point. And I guess I'll add one more into the mix of metrics to be looking at, especially when you're doing diagnostics, right? One of the most simple yet very effective ways for, let's say, diagnosis of performance is, think of uh, change percent on one axis and contribution to overall change on the other axis.
Hmm.
And you could drop campaigns, you could drop whatever, and you could look at a metric like spend, so that you prioritize looking at things that are high on percent change as well as contribution to change. So I would say contribution to change is a metric we should be looking at all the time,
Yeah.
as well. So to me, that two by two grid, or call it a scatter plot with those two on those two metrics, is hugely telling in terms of things or areas to go focus on when it comes to performance diagnostics.
Yeah, and that's like another thing that like I logged in, I saw your biggest changes dashboard, and I never like I was like, wow, that is like literally amazing because like I've never like seen it from that perspective. That
Yeah,
normally we're so used to like reporting on that's the way it is. Like this is the date range, this is the data you get. Like that's normal
yeah,
Amazon stuff that you put in the date range,
yeah,
this is what you get. And you
yeah,
don't get historicals, you might get previous year within Amazon, but that's not very useful. But you don't really get to see the prior period, what's happening on a changed like normally you have to like change your date range to see, okay, it was this time, and then you have to change the date range, remember it,
yeah,
you change it, say, okay, we went, this is like, it's, oh my gosh, it's so difficult that it's unbelievable. But
yeah.
it's kind of,
It's one of the.
yeah,
Sorry,
go
go ahead.
ahead, go ahead.
No, no, I was going to say comparison of performances between time periods, as simple as that sounds, and should have been around. It's not as easy as you might think, right?
Yeah.
And combine that with, you want to look at and you want to look at performance between two time periods of your choosing, but also across a bunch of different dimensions: campaign types, campaigns, products, product categories, brand versus non-brand. So um, again, I go back to, that's the agility you need to have in front of you to truly understand performance or troubleshoot performance, or find new opportunities.
And what I think is really cool is the granularity you can get do it with the changes that are happening. So not
Yeah,
only do you get to see the changes on the campaign level, you can
yeah,
also see the changes in ad spend, the changes in organic, and the changes in ad sales on the
yeah.
product level and keyword level. That's what I
True.
find really fascinating, the aggregation of that data. So you could
Yeah,
see, okay, we're spending less on our branded search terms, and that's the reasoning why our
yeah,
ACOS might be going up. Or
right.
you're spending more toward this one product, our hero product, making it where our ad sales are going up, or whatever it
Yeah,
may be. But I really like the aggregation of those changes because at the campaign level, it's somewhat useful. Like, yeah, you might, if you have
yeah,
single ASIN campaigns, it might be useful to know that those changes. But
yeah,
it's really helpful on the campaign or on the product and keyword level. That's super insightful because then we can say, okay, this keyword is killing it. Let's increase the ad spend for that keyword and these
yeah,
products. So you can,
yeah.
it's really actionable at that point and it helps out a lot.
True. Um,
And one more thing into this KPI is The main KPIs I would see that really play into psychology is, I would say, your click through rate, your conversion rates, and those two metrics are really the main ones when it comes to the actual psychology of the product. So like you might change your titles or your infographics or other things to increase those KPIs. Those are the main KPIs I would look at, the main metrics I would look at to figure out what the person is thinking to help increase the likelihood of purchasing. So those are the two main things I would look at there. And then another question came in. Do Intentwise provide the cash flow management system for forecasting system of brands?
Um, so I think um, short answer is, I mean, there's very targeted solutions for those things in the market, and we are not that, right? So we are an ad optimization and a data analytics platform.
Yeah.
That's what we are. So short answer is no, we don't have those point solutions, but we certainly make the underlying data available to you so you can actually analyze stuff, right? So
Yeah, like, and I think, yes, I think you're very right that there are other tools that that would do that, and I would say that's a very niche thing too. It's a very specific thing that most people won't need. Like, I mean, yes, it would be nice to have, but that's a whole other area of
yeah,
like everything else. And I do, while on this though, I am curious, are you guys coming planning on bringing in inventory metrics within the tool pretty soon?
yeah, actually, next week, actually.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Soon. So there's a long list of it's an endless list of things we bring together and prioritize. But uh, yes, short answer is yes, and very very soon, and we'll talk about that. But
And the reason why I bring that up is because I think it's like there's really three metrics that most people really care about. It's ad sales, organic sales, and then also inventory. So
yeah,
like we want to make sure that, okay, do we have enough inventory to keep advertising this product? If yes, keep going and increase the
yeah,
spend. If no, then
yeah,
decrease spend. So like I think that's another actionable metric that we can use, saying, okay,
yeah,
we don't have enough inventory for this month, so we got to decrease spend. We can't keep going with it.
yeah,
Or and having that on the product level, saying, okay, we get this many sales and we only have a month worth of inventory. We need to do something. And
yeah,
having those insights will be very helpful. Knowing that inventory metrics in there, I
yeah.
think it'll be very,
Makes
very
sense.
helpful.
Yep.
And yeah, having that in there, and also I've also heard that having a large amount of inventory actually helps with your organic rank. So
Oh,
that
interesting.
could actually be a factor in a decline of sales as well. So if you are getting low on inventory, say if you go from 1,000 units of inventory to 50, Amazon will actually start to rank you lower on the page, making it where your sales velocity goes down so you don't run out of inventory and like other things like that. And that can actually be a contributing factor to why sales are down. So you can look saying, okay, our inventory is super low. Amazon's going to start slowing down sales, and that is a contributing factor to why our sales are lower now. So
I
it's another
Yeah.
metric in there.
Well, I mean, I'm taking. I just took a note down here. I just want to see if we can actually spot that correlation in the data.
Yeah,
Super interesting use case. So
yeah, that'd be really cool to see like a chart like
yeah,
with a direct correlation of like lowering amounts of inventory to
yeah,
the decline of sales. I think that chart would be really cool. But yeah, that's the word. The word on the Amazon streets of that inventory has a big factor, and it kind of makes sense that Amazon would slow down sales. They would rank you lower because of inventory because they don't want you going from straight from like making $1,000 like 1,000 units a month or whatever to going to zero. But it makes sense why they would want to slow that down a little bit. But yeah, like it's interesting
yeah.
that like it's a good metric to keep a track of, especially inventory these days.
Yes. Love the use case actually. So I want to go see if that's actually happening. So
Yeah,
we'll do
that
that.
would be really fascinating. And then I guess it would depend what keywords. I guess you could track it on like multiple keywords and seeing if that goes. But there's a lot of factors in that too, because like, what if you have a higher conversion rate on a keyword, and that
Yeah.
makes your rent go up on that keyword, but then your inventory goes down. So it's like balancing out. You might stay at the like I know there's like I guess a million factors
Yeah.
in that question. So it'd be really hard to spot one particular thing, but
Yeah.
that would be fascinating to know. It would.
Yeah. For sure.
Um, And then, yes, like for business owners, it's necessary to have a cash flow systems, or else they'll be correct.
Yeah.
Amazon actually does show their profit and loss statements, at least the expenses. They have a pretty good breakdown actually. It's actually very graphic. They're able to break down like what's going on, the advertising expenses, and everything else. But there's also a million other factors in there that Amazon does not show. So like your cost of shipping to the actual place. They don't
Mm.
bring in the cost of goods. And that's something you'll probably have to enter either in a tool or in an Excel sheet or something else like that. To get adapt it for that particular business. Um, because each business is a little bit different on how their profit and loss statements work, because the services of packaging and like there's a million factors in that question. So that's another thing in there as well. So, we kind of went through what particular data types there were, what kind of data sources, and everything else. Is there anything with all this data that you have? Is there a particular future? How do I phrase this? Do you see the Amazon data going a particular way of like, do you see the advertising costs keep going up? Because there's a lot of data at your disposal that you can see on a large scale of accounts. So are you going to see the advertising? Do you see that keeping increasing?
Yeah.
Do you see Amazon sales increasing overall? What do you see as the Amazon future play of what trend do you think that will continue happening within
Yeah.
Q4 next year and things like that?
Yeah. I mean, a few things. I think CPCs, in my opinion, will continue to go up.
Mhm.
The rate at which they go up may change, so that's going to happen. What's also going to happen, in my opinion, is that, especially in the advertising realm, more and more of the non-endemic advertisers are going to start participating. I mean, I'm talking about companies that don't actually sell anything on Amazon, a hotel chain, an insurance company, those types of players. So those will become more and more, uh, prevalent. So more competition.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously, we all know about the aggregator space getting more and more organized. So there'll be organized competition coming
Yeah.
from that group of folks. Um, and then, you know, there is clearly retail media expansion where every retailer you can think of is also launching their ad units and, ad products. So in essence, broadly speaking, CPCs will go up. Competition will continue to get more and more organized. In my view, the importance of data, as we have talked about for the last hour, is just going to continue to go up. More endemic, non-endemic advertisers will participate, which in turn will lead to more competition. And then also, it's there for us to see, but like the expansion of the different ad types, right? So, I mean, sponsored display 18 months ago kind of didn't exist, but today it's almost becoming equivalent of DSP. So there will be DSP and there is sponsored display. So, point being, there's just so many ways Amazon will continue to monetize their ad business. Um, we should expect to see a ton of new formats
Yeah, yeah, I
on the ad
expect a
platform.
lot of new formats coming as well, and
Yeah,
it's like it's super important with all the aggregators coming on and everything else that product innovation is critical, because
yeah,
as soon as you innovate one product, there's already going to be like 100 other people
yeah,
trying to emulate that exact same thing. So constant innovation of the product and constant brand building is going to be crucial within
Yeah,
Amazon, because a lot of these Amazon sellers, they think of themselves as an Amazon seller. They don't think of themselves as a brand or like their e-commerce site or anything else. And it's really important that the brand building is super crucial into the
yeah,
long-term play of what you do, because there's a big difference between like typing in soap and typing in Dove soap. Like those are
yeah,
two huge differences. And if you play the brands game, people are going to be typing in your stuff rather than your competitors. So it's
yeah,
super important to keep innovating, also to stay ahead of the competition, but also play the brand game so more people start to know who you are. And that way you are at a better you're not as vulnerable as these other companies are that are only Amazon sellers.
yeah,
It's really
yeah,
important.
definitely. And I think to your point, product differentiation has always been important.
Yeah.
But in this universe, sustaining differentiation on a particular product is hard. And
Yeah.
so, and as we know, Amazon is a momentum game. So not only are you going to have to be a great operator today, uh, but you have to continuously make investments to bring innovation and, to your point, build that brand. And also tactically speaking too, so Amazon has been introducing a lot of these formats where that brand building on Amazon is actually important and also possible. Like there are things they're introducing around followers of your brand, around posts you're making. It's like being on LinkedIn and building a brand for yourself. It's kind of very equivalent to that now in
Yeah.
the Amazon universe. So
True, very true. And I would say it would be pretty cool in the future to eventually pull in conversion rate on the product. It would be pretty neat. I know that's like a whole other like you
yeah,
can't even pull that in through the API, which is like super hard. But I think that would be a really cool metric in the future to see like, okay, product sales are down. Is it because of less impressions? Is it because our conversion rate is dropping? I think those would be cool future metrics to
yeah,
know on Amazon. And I know those are extremely difficult to pull, yes, but I think those would be really neat to have in the future. It'd be really
yes,
awesome.
agree, agree.
And
Yeah.
I had another question in here. What recommendations do Intentwise provide on each keyword? What important metrics does it include?
Yeah. So um, I guess what's not clear to me in this question is like when you say recommendations on each keyword. I don't know if you're. I'm assuming you're referring to bidding recommendations. Victor, would that be your guess? Or, uh, um, but if it is that, I mean, I think on the bid management side, like I've indicated before, we have a machine learning driven algorithm that you can leverage, or you could set up your own rules where you can define your own metrics for bid changes. So you have that flexibility. As far as that machine learning model goes, it's no one metric. And part of the reason why we leverage a machine learning model is because it actually gives us the ability to input and throw in new metrics constantly. So
Yeah.
my list of metrics is fairly long. All the obvious metrics are taken into account. Impressions, clicks, conversion, CTR, conversion rate, average order value, so on and so forth. But it is a much longer list and a complex list.
Yeah.
Happy to chat with the individual, one on one to kind of dig into this more. Uh, but again, I
And
want to leave. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, like I was gonna say, like it's really interesting the recommendations that you do provide. It's it's very insightful because you don't get that level on other tool providers. So like another tool provider, they basically like it's like that is it. Like they show like, hey, this is it. Um, there's like they don't show you other opportunities in there, and
Yeah.
it not only shows you the data but also provides another level of optimization that you can make on that, saying like, hey, like these are the things I would change. I would increase the ad budget. I would do this or like whatever it
Yeah.
may be, and that adds a whole other level of optimization, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, so we view recommendations is in two parts. There's a whole bid optimization and bid management that we all talk about it a lot, and that's what people think of when say recommendations. But there's an entirely other universe outside of bid management, account structure, missing targets. And if you have a large catalog, believe it or not, missing ASINs from campaign types. That happens so often, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So there's another universe beyond just bid management that we have built what we call a recommendation engine that's constantly surfacing these things for you to act on. The
Mhm.
metaphor we support is like grab a cup of coffee, sit with that list of recommendations once or twice a week. You'll be in much better shape. So certainly that recommendation engine that we have beyond bid management is a unique aspect to Intentwise.
Cool. Yeah. And then he kind of clarified right here how to structure each keyword in campaigns to be more specific. Um, so like, yeah, I think this is more of a it's not necessarily like a tool question, but this is more like of an Amazon just in general question.
Yep.
I would assume. Um, like the way I'll let you know how I typically phrase it right now. I have heard keyword level campaigns, single keyword campaigns. That's a new
Yep.
topic and campaigns. I would not want to manage a single keyword campaign because that would be thousands of campaigns and like that would be kind of awful to manage. But the way we typically do it now is we do like again 150 keywords. We test out those and then we start using an auto campaign to harvest new keywords, and then we put that into a manual campaign, and then we start from there. Because auto campaigns historically are better, um, can spend. They can start to spend a little bit better than manual from what we've seen. So that's how we normally start out and structure our campaigns. And we have it based off of the similar product types, like apparent ASINs, um, and like with similar keywords and things like that. I will say it's important to get the colors in there. Like if it's a specific color product, having like one campaign just for the blue shirts, one campaign for all the red shirts, one campaign for all the like, so that way you can get those targeted keywords for that specific color. Because Amazon's algorithm isn't the best at sensing those, so I would say having colors in there is really important as well. Anything you would add on to that?
I mean, I think the campaign structure, obviously, it's a topic where some folks have really, really strong points of view. Right?
Yeah.
It's a topic where some tools force you into a structure. Um, we don't. But that being said, I think whatever the structure is, the goal of the structure is always about uh, continuous segmentation and granularity so that your bid and targeting optimization can be as efficient as possible. So it's less about you know this doing a one-time thing, but more about how do you continuously increase the granularity of it. One thing though is as you increase granularity, you need to have the ability to manage things at scale because there'll be a lot of things to be doing, to be managing. So that's where automation and platforms and tools start to matter. Um,
Yeah.
but I think about account structure as a structure that you just have to continuously increase segmentation and granularity. Now, there is have ad groups by match type and exclude one match type from the other, and there is the single keyword campaign approach, and all of that. You know,
Yeah.
and we can So we my take is whatever structure you have, aim to segment it and make it granular continuously over time
Hmm.
and build the sophistication to manage what is going to be bigger and larger scale and more levers to pull.
Yeah. And that makes perfect sense. So we're almost out of time now. Is there any other? Do you want to tell them, the audience, how to find you, how to find
Yeah,
Intentwise,
yeah,
or anything else? Like any final thoughts or anything there? That'd be great.
yeah. So I mean, it's Intentwise. You Google us, you go there. If you are interested in the analytics platform, you can see it. It's available for a free trial. Take it for a spin. One
Yeah.
of the things we take a lot of pride in is our customer support and service. So you'll experience that as well. So would love the opportunity to work with you. And then, I guess, I mean, from in terms of, in conclusion, we view this universe as one that is getting more and more competitive and more complex, with lots of
Yep.
signals to account for. And we view our mission to be one where we want to help sellers, agencies, or brands continue to stay competitive by
Yeah.
giving them that analytical edge and the expertise. So that's the path we are on.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. So yes, thank you for everyone for watching. This is the Marketing Perspective podcast. Thank you for watching, guys. Thank you for coming on today, and we will talk to you guys next time. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Victor, thank you. This was fun.